That $150/month storage unit is actually costing you $18,000 over a decade. But here's what really keeps me up at night. It's not just the $18,000, it's what that money could have become. I'm Ethan Ross, and I've helped over 2,000 families clear debt and build real wealth. One of the biggest net worth killers I see isn't flashy. It's not a car payment or a subscription you forgot about. It's storage units. And I want to walk you through exactly why they're so dangerous, using math that will actually change how you think about temporary expenses. Let me start with a client I worked with last year. Her name was Sarah, and when I first reviewed her finances, she had a $150/month storage unit. She'd been paying for it for 3 years. When I asked what was in there, she hesitated. Then she admitted she wasn't entirely sure anymore. We went to look at it together. You know what we found? About $600 worth of items, mostly old furniture, some clothes she'd outgrown, and boxes she'd never unpacked from a move. She'd paid $400 over 3 years to store $600 of stuff. That's not storage, that's a tax on indecision. But here's where it gets worse, and this is where the real damage happens to your net worth. Let's do the full decade math, because this is what nobody talks about. $150 per month times 12 months equals $1,800 per year. Over 10 years, that's $18,000, just gone, paid out. No equity, no asset, no return. Now I want you to feel this number in context. According to the Federal Reserve's 2023 survey data, the median American has less than $5,000 in emergency savings. That storage unit over a decade is nearly 4 times the emergency fund most people are trying to build. You could literally have a fully funded emergency fund 4 times over instead of storing stuff you forgot about. But that's still not the real cost. The real cost is opportunity. Let me show you what $1,800 per year that storage payment could actually become. If you invested that $150 every single month into a high-yield savings account earning 4.5% a pie, which is realistic in today's market, after 10 years you wouldn't have $18,000. You'd have approximately $23,500. That's not even counting stock market growth. If you put it in a basic S&P 500 index fund averaging 10% annual returns, you'd have closer to $31,000. The storage unit didn't just cost you $18,000, it cost you the $13,000 you would have earned in returns. That's the math that changes behavior. Now let me tell you why this happens in the first place. Because understanding the psychology is just as important as the numbers. Storage units exploit something I call decision deferral. You don't have time to go through boxes right now. Maybe you'll need that furniture eventually. What if you regret getting rid of your ex's kitchen table? Yes, I've seen this. So instead of making a hard decision, keep it or don't, you pay $150/month for the privilege of not deciding. Here's what's happening underneath. You're not actually storing stuff. You're paying rent on indecision, and indecision is expensive. I've worked with families where the storage unit became invisible. It showed up on their credit card or bank statement every month, but they stopped noticing it. It was just there like Netflix or a phone bill. But here's the difference. Netflix costs $15.99 and you use it. The storage unit costs $150 and you avoid thinking about it. In my experience, when someone is paying for a storage unit and also has credit card debt, there's always a connection. The average American carried $360 in credit card debt in 2024, according to Federal Reserve data. If you're carrying that kind of debt while also paying for storage, you're literally borrowing money at 18-22% interest to pay for something you're keeping out of sight. That's not a financial decision, that's financial self-sabotage. Let me give you another example. Last year I reviewed the finances of a couple, Marcus and Jennifer. They had been paying $175/month for a storage unit for 5 years. When I asked them why, they couldn't articulate it. Just in case, Marcus said, we might need it someday. I told them, let's do the math. 5 years at $175/month equals $10,500. I asked them to estimate the resale value of what was in there. They guessed maybe $1,200 generously. I asked them, what happens if you just buy those things again if you actually need them? They looked confused at first, then it clicked. We cleared out the unit, sold about $800 worth of stuff, donated the rest. Their net cost for that 5-year storage, about $9,700. They immediately took that $175/month and started putting it toward their emergency fund. Within 18 months, they had built a proper $8,000 emergency fund. Within 30 months, they'd paid off $6,200 in credit card debt. The storage unit was costing them more than their ability to get financially stable. This is what I see over and over. The storage unit isn't the problem, it's a symptom. It's a symptom of not having a system to deal with stuff, not having the conversation about what you actually need, and not being willing to make hard decisions. Now, I'm not saying never rent a storage unit. Sometimes it makes sense, a temporary move, a renovation, a specific 3-month situation, that's fine. What I'm saying is, the moment it becomes permanent or routine, you've stopped paying for storage. You've started paying a tax on chaos. Here's what I've learned works. If you're considering a storage unit, ask yourself 3 questions before you sign that lease. First, can I describe without looking what's actually in storage? If you can't, it's not storage, it's a financial black hole. Second, what's the actual resale value of everything in there? If it's less than 6 months of storage payments, you're upside down already. Third, would I pay this much to keep the stuff? Because that's exactly what you're doing every month. For people watching who don't have a storage unit but are wondering if they need one, here's my philosophy: own less stuff. I know that sounds simple, but it's the actual answer. Every item you own costs you in storage, insurance, organization, and mental bandwidth. The average American home has between 300,000 and 400,000 items in it. Most of it isn't used or thought about. When I helped families through debt payoff, one of the fastest psychological wins was decluttering. You'd be amazed what happens to your mindset when you stop storing things you're ashamed of, don't like, or have outgrown. So here's what I want you to do if you have a storage unit right now. Don't close it tomorrow. That's not my point. My point is, make a decision about it. Go look at it. Really look. Take photos of everything. Ask yourself, is this worth $18,000 over 10 years? Is this worth the opportunity cost of $31,000 in invested returns? If the answer is yes, fine, keep it, but keep it intentionally. Know what's in there and why. If the answer is no, and for most people it is, start the process. Take a weekend, go through it, sell what has value, donate what doesn't, close the unit. Take that $150/month and put it somewhere that actually builds your wealth. Put it in an emergency fund if you don't have one. Put it toward debt if you're carrying credit card balances. Put it in an index fund if you're debt-free and building wealth, but stop letting it disappear into a storage unit. Your future self is either going to thank you for that decision or regret it. And honestly, in my experience working with thousands of families, nobody has ever regretted closing their storage unit. Not one person has ever said, man, I wish I'd kept paying for that unit I never used. But plenty have said, I can't believe I wasted $18,000 on that. Don't be that person. Check your bank statement right now. Is there a storage unit charge? If yes, that's the conversation you need to have with yourself today. If you found this breakdown helpful, I'd really appreciate if you subscribe to CashMind Daily. We break down the hidden costs, the invisible expenses,